The Labour Party isn't calling for visa waivers at this point, is it? Even though we have this situation where people can't get into this country because of the bureaucracy.
We're calling for emergency visas to be issued, a much simpler, faster process where you can do the biometrics and security checks on the spot and then have an emergency visa without people having to fill in 14 pages of forms, without people having to struggle to kind of upload documents while they're in the back of a car, fleeing, trying to get to safety. Because I think what we've seen is just really shambolic, and it's not fair on people who have already fled a war zone, people who have already endured so much, had to leave behind so much and have fled a Russian bombardment. They should be able to get to safety and join family, and that's what really this is about.
And the concern against that from the government is that it may well let in people who are not actually fleeing violence. They're trying to get into Britain for nefarious reasons.
But you can do the biometric and security checks on the spot. The problem with what the government's done is, first of all, they've not had the proper centres in place. They've not set up emergency centres in order to be able to do biometrics or security checks. They've not done the proper planning to look at whether they could use the same technology that they used for Hong Kong so that you can do a lot of those checks online. And then they've made it really complicated. So they're sort of picking and choosing between families rather than just saying everybody should be able to come to join family or friends. We know most people want to stay in Poland or in Hungary or close to Ukraine and close to home. But those who've got family or friends are reaching out to people who can look after them, and instead they're having to meet all kinds of technical requirements rather than just having a very simple system in place. So this could be done much, much faster. We just shouldn't have these delays. We should have something proper in place that can let families reunite at such an awful time.
I mean, is the comparison to Hong Kong quite fair? I mean, would you want there to be centres set up at every single entry point into the UK? Because that would be unworkable, wouldn't it?
I mean, obviously, every country's different. So the issues, the minister himself said yesterday that they were looking at whether they could use the technology that they used for Hong Kong. Well, look faster. I mean, why wasn't this being done weeks ago when British intelligence were warning for some time that an invasion from Russia into Ukraine was imminent? And that's the thing. They didn't put that planning in place. They haven't set up enough emergency centres. And so you've got this awful situation where families make it all the way to Calais, you know, someone who's driven their niece who they went to pick up, driven all the way back to Calais and then being sent to Brussels, where the centre is only open 3 days a week. I mean, how can that be when there is a war on in Europe, that you have one of your centres that is closest to Calais only open 3 days a week? And that's the thing the Home Office really should be getting a grip on. And it is shambolic and shameful that they have failed to do something so basic.
Now, in regards to that, the Home Office will be saying that it's the security element that you need to be careful of. It's being talked about this morning, that Kremlin operatives masquerading as Ukrainians. I mean, your shadow Home Secretary, you wouldn't want those Kremlin operatives coming in at all. So there has to be some checks in place, don't there?
Sure, and I'm saying do the security checks, but you can do these risk security checks on the spot. They're really quick to do. Well, if you talk to Border Force officials, you talk to people who do these security...
Is the funding there to do those quick checks?
So this is basic stuff to do, that they should be able to do. If you look at what other countries are doing to support Ukraine, you know, obviously Poland, Hungary, they're doing the most because they are the neighbouring countries and that is where people are wanting to stay. But really, it should not be beyond the wit of the Home Office to make sure they've got enough staff in place to do the security checks. They've got the technology to do it. They should be able to do this on the spot and do this much more quickly. The problem is, what we've seen from the Home Office is they just resisted this all the way along. They're still saying, some family members, for example, if you are a healthcare worker, if you work in a British hospital, you're Ukrainian here on a healthcare visa, you can't bring your elderly mum to come and live with you, even if she's fled Kyiv or she's fled bombardment in Ukraine. And that's not right. I don't think that's what people do.
Of course, we've seen this war coming. What do you put this down to, then, the fact that it does seem to be so difficult for the Home Office to get a grip of this situation? Because people are struggling on the border.
To be honest, I don't get it, because other departments have been planning. Other departments have been working on this and preparing. And, you know, we've worked close with the Foreign Office, with other departments. We have been pressing the Treasury and other departments to go much further and faster with sanctions. But we are working with them to do this. It's the Home Office that seems to have been so resistant. It tried to use the original visa system. If you remember, we had that awful moment when the Home Office Minister said, well, people should come here and apply for a seasonal agricultural visa. They should come and pick fruit. Well, that's clearly not the answer when you've got desperate families fleeing conflict.
Is this the result of having that tough border policy that has been put in place post-Brexit?
I think it's not. I actually don't think this is about Brexit. I think this is about a Home Office that is not actually looking at what is happening to families and not responding properly. You know, to be fair, actually, I think the government did do the right thing on Hong Kong, did provide visas, and that system worked really well. But they have just been sort of blinkered. They've just not looked properly at what needs to happen for Ukraine.
And while I've got you here, Yvette Cooper, you will have seen what happened with John Bercow yesterday being found guilty. You sent out a tweet in 2019. There's always a tweet where you said that you would miss him. Do you still miss him?
I haven't seen the report, but I have seen some of the reports on it, and it's obviously really troubling.
I mean, it is really not
troubling.
Apologetic at all.
No, I think we've had an independent process. You have to respect an independent process that's done proper investigations, and the conclusions are, I think, really troubling. The Labour Party has suspended John Bercow from membership, and that's the right thing to do. There's obviously that process still going through, so I can't comment on that, but it's the right response.
You would have worked with him for a long time. Did you see any of the bullying, see any of this behaviour that went
I didn't, but I also think that you have to respect the independent investigation and process that's happened. I think, it's important that we do that. It's been wrong in the past when politicians of any party have tried to ignore independent processes or overturn them. We saw that happen with Owen Paterson. That was wrong. Equally, it would be wrong to challenge or to try and overturn an independent process in this case. And I think we have to respect it. And obviously, those are very troubling conclusions.
Certainly. OK, Yvette Cooper, Shadow Home Secretary, thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you.